Hi, I'm Kimberly Gray, a professor of environmental engineering at Northwestern University, and I would like to share with you the highlights of the research being conducted in my group. So I'm going to share my screen, pull up a laser pointer here, and get going. The overarching goal of our work is to reinvent the urban metabolism across scales from nanometers to kilometers. I'm showing you a picture of Chicago, a world-class city on the shores of a globally unique ecosystem, Lake Michigan. And this is where Northwestern is located. We seek to understand and change the cycles of energy and materials in cities. Our work is roughly divided into two categories: applied ecology and environmental chemistry. I say our because a large number of people are involved in this work. I show their names here, and I will introduce them a little later. We work on a variety of topics, moving from molecular and nanometer scale to the landscape and regional scale. We synthesize, characterize, and test 1, 2, and 3D nanostructured materials for various environmental applications. We study how light may drive the deterioration of pigments in paintings. We develop technologies to convert waste into high-value products. We're studying ways to improve the engineering design of green infrastructure networks to yield cascading benefits to communities. We look at contaminant fate and impact in aqueous systems, and this includes understanding the unintended consequences or impacts of nanomaterials in the environment. That brings us full circle. Now let's dig a little deeper. We do a lot of synthesis and characterization of nanomaterials in my lab, principally TiO2-based nanocomposites. We look at the effects of size, shape, and structure on chemical reactivity, particularly photoactivity. We develop thin films of functionalized polyelectrolyte complexes that have special utility in controlling membrane fouling and flux. This is an image of 3D graphene in the shape of a crumpled ball structure that displays robust and selective absorption of micropollutants such as pharmaceuticals and personal care products, and performs better than granular activated carbon under a variety of environmental conditions. This work is a collaboration with Professor Jiajing Wang in material science and engineering. This is a photo of a COVID patient in a critical care unit and shows how many touch screens and monitors are in heavy use in healthcare. We're working in collaboration with researchers at Tel Aviv University to develop biocidal transparent photocatalytic thin films that reduce microbial attachment and kill pathogens on the touch screens of these medical instruments. The target is more co-infectious bacteria than viruses such as SARS-CoV, which are transmitted, as you know, primarily through aerosols. Let's talk about cultural heritage next. This is Eyes in the Heat by Jackson Pollock. It shows a lot of cracking associated with areas of TiO2 white pigment. In collaboration with art conservators in Italy, we are studying how light may drive the deterioration of the linseed oil binder, both experimentally and computationally. We are showing that complex interactions between the linseed oil and TiO2 drive visible light damage to the painting. Plant biomass, such as switchgrass or trees, has a potential to replace fossil fuels in energy and chemical production. A great deal of the focus, however, has been on the use of cellulose to make ethanol, but that leaves half the plant mass and energy behind. I'm referring to lignin, the major aromatic biopolymer on Earth. The problem, though, is liberating the smaller aromatic subunits or pieces that you could then use for chemical production. And what we're doing is developing a biorefinery concept here in collaboration with Georgia Wells, We are coupling a microbial electrolysis cell with lignin solubilization and depolymerization. High fatty acid content wastewater is from a food waste, for instance, is fed to the anode of this MEC. Exoelectrogens process that organic material, producing clean water and an electric current. At the cathode, the electrons then reduce oxygen to produce a high pH salty caustic stream. This caustic effluent or catholyte is then used to solubilize lignin and to gently depolymerize it under ambient conditions of temperature and pressure, to produce a suite of lower molecular weight products, among them flavoring such as vanillin, and a class of antioxidants such as flavonoids, which are of high value to the pharmaceutical industry. We're also producing lignin nanoparticles, which are of potential use to in the cosmetic industry as sunscreens or as delivery systems for fertilizers in agriculture or medical therapeutics. Let's take a jump now from molecules and reactors to the landscape. We're seeking to improve the predictive engineering performance of green infrastructure, to quantify secondary benefits, probe the enhancement of biodiversity, and boost community well-being, particularly in low-income communities throughout the Great Lakes area. These drawings illustrate that we can replace impervious urban surfaces that cause flooding with a variety of green infrastructure systems to create networks that work in synergy with built infrastructure to reduce stormwater flows and pollutant loads and restore biodiversity and habitat. We're starting a couple of new projects. One is to look at the interaction of microplastics and nanomaterials in aquatic systems. We've also are doing work that's based on recent findings in our lab, where we've shown that common and heavily used nanomaterials such as nano silver and nano TiO2 self-assemble in natural waters under light to create very reactive composites that exert greater toxicity than the combined effects produced by their parent materials. Now what we're doing is looking at the mechanisms by which engineered nanoparticles interact with bacteria and bacteriophage or viruses to probe the question, do these interactions promote antibiotic resistance gene transfer, and how? We're particularly interested in the role of bacteriophage, that bacteriophage play in ARG transfer. That was a quick spin through the work ongoing in my lab. And the people who drive all that work are Han Fu, who is studying the crumpled graphene balls and transparent biocidal films. Tom Schmidt is the material science and engineering student who's working on the pigment degradation project. Natalia Obzut is working on the lignin biorefinery project. I've also included Dr. Patricio Carnelli here, who until recently was a postdoc in my group on this project and still continues to be involved, even though he's returned to Buenos Aires. Haley Lewis, with the help of undergraduate researchers Andrea Lynn and Connor McGarvey, is working in the field, in the lab, and with communities on the Green Infrastructure Project. Dr. Sylvia Meligari will join my lab just as soon as the pandemic is over to study microplastics, fate and impact on Lake Michigan. And Shushan Wu is tackling the effects of engineered nanoparticles on gene transfer in bacteria. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and have included my email here in case you would like to get in touch with me. I'm going to stop sharing, and once again, I'd like to thank you very much. Bye-bye.